significant stake in several major developments in the region. The mayor asked how long I'd been in the business. I said about 5 years, but I like to keep a low profile. And he asked about my restaurant job, genuinely curious why someone successful would wait tables. I explained that I enjoy the work. It keeps me grounded and gives me a different perspective on the community. Jake kept trying to steer the conversation away from me, but every time he did, someone would ask me another question. By dessert, he was sweating through his shirt. After dinner, during the mingling portion, Jake cornered me by the bar. I was furious, demanded to know why I never told him about my real job. I reminded him that he never actually asked. He spent years assuming I was a failure without ever being interested enough to find out what I was really doing. Then he switched tactics, going from angry to buddy-buddy in seconds. Started talking about how we should join forces and how much we could accomplish together. How he always believed in me deep down. How this was all a big misunderstanding. I just looked at him and asked if he remembered what he said at the restaurant about telling people I was in prison because it was less embarrassing. Asked if he remembered his date, questioning if I was special needs while he laughed. He tried to play it off as a joke, said I was being too sensitive. That family gives each other all the time. I told him that family doesn't humiliate each other in public, doesn't tear each other down for years, doesn't pretend the other doesn't exist. And Tom from Riverside came over and asked if I'd made a decision about the Oak Ridge Heights property. That's the development where Jake's second house is. I said, yes, we are moving forward with the full redevelopment plan, and we'll be sending out the special assessment notices to current homeowners tomorrow. Jake's face went white. He asked what that meant exactly. Tom started explaining the whole plan, complete infrastructure. Overhaul, architectural redesign, massive homeowner assessments to fund it. Said anyone who couldn't afford the assessments would have the option to sell back to us at a significant discount. Jake pulled me aside and asked if this was some kind of joke. I told him no, it's just business. Sometimes investments don't work out the way you hope. He said he couldn't afford a special assessment right now. He was already stretched thin with the mortgage. Just shrugged and said that's unfortunate, but he could always sell the property back to us at 80 cents on the dollar. He'd take a massive loss, but it would be better than foreclosure. The look of realization on his face was exactly what I'd been waiting for. He finally understood that this wasn't a coincidence, that I knew exactly what I was doing, that his loser brother had been 10 steps ahead of him this whole time. He called me a vindictive, said families shouldn't do this to each other. Just laughed and asked which one of us started this, reminded him that I was perfectly content to let him think I was a failure until he decided to humiliate me in front of an entire restaurant. He stormed off, nearly knocking over a waiter in the process. I finished my drink and made the rounds, saying goodbye to everyone. Tom mentioned that he was looking forward to our golf game next weekend. Richard from Westlake asked if I'd consider letting them in on the next Riverside deal. I said I'd think about it. The next morning, I got a call from my mom. She was crying, saying Jake had told them everything. How I was sabotaging his career and his investments, how I was deliberately trying to ruin him financially. She kept asking why I would do such a thing to my own brother. I reminded her about the restaurant, about how she told everyone they pretend to only have one son, about how they took down all my photos. She got quiet, then tried to explain that they were just embarrassed, that they didn't understand why someone with my potential would choose to work in a restaurant, that they thought I was wasting my life. I asked if that justified treating me like for years. She didn't have an answer for that. My dad called an hour later. He was more direct. Said we needed to have a family meeting to sort that out, that Jake was in serious financial trouble now because of what he'd done, that they might need to help.